What's up, you guys, and welcome back on another episode of the Smart Talk, where we talk about real struggles, real stories, and entrepreneurs that came from the ground up. Today, I got a very special guest here today. I got my boy, Lil Sauce, in the building. What's
Little
up, my boy?
salsa.
What up? How we doing, guys?
What's up,
Good,
man? How are
good,
you,
bro.
bro?
I'm
Appreciate
good.
having you.
Happy to be here.
Shit, man, I'm
Hell
glad you
yeah.
pulled up on us.
Yeah.
Hopefully people get to hear about your story and how you came up, brother.
Awesome. I would love to share that, man.
Yeah, I appreciate
yeah.
you coming on here, bro. Like, tell me a little bit more about yourself, bro.
All right, let's see. Let's break it down. I'm originally from Phoenix, Arizona. Born and raised there. Moved to Albuquerque about 8 years ago. I'm 28. I'm a bartender, DJ, artist, dancer, mixologist, all kinds of shit. So, yeah.
My boy, a man of wonders for sure, bro.
I know.
Man of
Uh,
wonders,
jack of many
jack of all
trades.
trades.
Jack
Yeah.
of all trades, bro. How'd you get into like being a DJ and bartender and all like kind of like the club scene, bro?
So the club scene for me, it kind of started when I was younger with my love for music. So I, play a couple instruments, saxophone, piano, guitar. I even picked up like ukulele. And then my music kind of also got me into dancing, and I even got into cheerleading. And then once I got out of high school, I wanted to travel, go see these, musicians and artists I really love, and that's what took me into raving. And I was like, oh shit, this is where I need to be right here.
Yeah.
So I would go, travel to Miami, lived in Seattle for a little bit, Denver, Phoenix, and I just fell in love with the culture of raving, and I figured, how can I kind of like get myself in here as a DJ? So that's what made me want to start bartending. So I was like, honestly, the best way to make connections and really vibe with people, where are the DJs at? They're at the bar.
Yeah, you
they're
gotta
at
be in the
clubs.
scene.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I was like, maybe I'll start bartending. So I did that real young, started when I was 21. So I've been doing that ever since, and I feel like that really kind of helped guide me into, locations and really get to meet the right people to where I am now.
Uh-huh. Dude, how's like bartending? Like I feel like it's like a hit or miss like job. Like I feel like people talk shit, like oh,
Yeah.
you make shitty drinks or they're
Make shitty drinks.
They get
Shitty
yeah.
service.
Yeah, they're
shitty
drunk, they want
hours.
their shit quick, like
Yeah. It's cool, man. I've kind of been, like I said, in the industry for a few years now, almost like 10 years. But I started from the ground up. I started as a bar back, learned my way around the bar, and I've been with Canvas Artistry since day one. I've gone to other bars and worked there too, like steakhouses and the casino and shit like that. But it's cool. It's hit or miss. Working a tip-based job can be kind of hard. But if you're good at what you do and you like it, then, people will come back to you. You get your regulars and, kind of create that foundation of, like, having a good time. It's about being at the party, not just, like, the fuck you want? Here's your adios. Get out of my
Adios.
face,
Yeah.
Like, it's more about connecting with people. So it could be hard with the club scene, the late-night crowd. Most people just want that, I need 5 shots right now.
Yeah.
So, but most of the time, it's cool to like be able to connect with them, and that's kind of where you get that, like I said, foundation of regulars, and that's where the income will come from. I mean, I honestly can't think of a better job to work because I'm such a fucking night owl and insomniac. So I'll be up late working on music or whatever projects I'm working on, and so I work the same hours off the clock as I do on the clock. So it just works out
fits your
perfect.
schedule. Yeah, that's
Yeah, exactly.
I understand that. Was there like were you personally, you say Canvas, like, or just in a clubbing scene, that's the best place to bartend for you?
I think so, yeah. I think I like to consider Canvas as kind of like a portal for artists and people that are, working and grinding in the community. Like somehow me starting at Canvas, here I am now talking to y'all, because I bartend, because I DJ. So I've always seen it as a great place to connect with people, socialize. I think it's a safe place as well too. And yeah, definitely. Definitely appreciate working there, and
Yeah.
yeah.
When it comes to serving drinks, bro, I know, like, you got to make a living. Like, you really rely on tips and stuff, right?
Mhm.
Like, morally, right? Like, how does that take place that, like, this person's pretty fucked up, but, like, I didn't really get good tips tonight? Like, where do you kind of draw the line? Like, like, I shouldn't serve him because he's too intoxicated.
There's certain training that you have to go through to become a bartender, and you have to redo it, get your server's license every couple years. And which is good. It's good training, but everybody's different. Every situation can be different. It sucks to cut people off. Like I said, you want to be like life of the party. You want everyone having a good time. But obviously, if you're that messed up, man, Like it's gonna hurt me more morally to serve you
Yeah.
than the money's gonna matter. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
put your money away, like get some water. Let me get you some water. Who's driving your ass home? Where are you going? There's
Yeah.
a food truck. Go hit that shit. So I think morally it's more important than the money. So I'll cut off anybody, bro. It don't matter. It could be John Jones. It could be whoever,
John
bro.
Jones.
I'll cut them off real quick.
Have
I
you
think
had
they're too fucked up.
have you had instances where like you called an Uber for somebody?
I haven't had to do that yet. But normally I can like help people out with that. So try to like, get them some water, let them hang out a little bit, especially after hours, when
Yeah.
we're all cleaning.
Yeah.
Or in the case, they got to get going early. But, for the most part, I just kind of do my job behind the bar, and I let, security and the owners and stuff take care of their stuff outside of the bar.
So what's the difference? So let's say like you're bartending, then you're DJing. What's the difference in the two work environments if within that club?
Oh, man. So I don't know. I think a lot of similarities are, you're around alcohol a lot of, bad influences and stuff like that. It's easy to make bad choices when you're just, in the nightlife and you're surrounded by so many people and so many, friends or wannabe friends and all this stuff, and drama can easily happen. So, I mean, there's a lot of similarities. Even with bartending, I like to do what's called flair bartending. So it's kind of like a dance, do tricks, throw, shakers around and stuff like that. I'm sure you see like Vegas bartenders doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm not like crazy with it, but I also like to put like some kind of performance into, both of them, DJing, I'm up there dancing, having a good time, singing the songs. When I'm bartending, doing the same thing, singing, dancing, singing the songs, doing that. And I make really good drinks too. I'm not trying to brag or anything, but, I've really studied my craft, and I'll help make, drink specials and stuff like that, and, design cocktails for menus and stuff like that. So,
Nice.
yeah. So kind of goes hand in hand with the art, dance, that kind of stuff.
I know you wanted to be a bartender just to kind of like get into the DJ industry. Like, what did you do to like get into being in a DJ? Like, did you impress the owner about being a really good bartender, and you approach him like, hey, like, can I be a DJ? Or like, how did that evolve?
So the DJ journey was a lot harder because it's not a job you hand in a resume and you do an interview, and then there's a process to like work through to work your way up the ladder,
Yeah.
So with becoming a DJ, what really it was for me was going to the events, meeting the people that were at the shows. I would go to, have like, art, like if there was like an art pop-up, art walk, stuff like that, and meet the people that, I was vibing with and see what they had going on. And, I would do like, dispensary 420 pop-up because that's, my homie's brother. So he needs somebody to perform, provide music. So I do something like that. Or, we had a homie that was working at Chiba Hut back in the day. So me and my friends, we would get our little sound system on a fold-out table, and we go outside Chiba Hut and we just DJ like that.
Nice.
So I think what happened was the kind of turn of things kind of happened when I started meeting promoters, photographers, people that were more involved in working in the industry and making good connections with them. And then you just kind of have to prove yourself every time. So no matter what event, you got to do the utmost that you can as an artist to just make sure it goes well, do your job correctly. It's not all about you as a DJ either. You got to kind of find the balance of what people expect to hear or want to hear, and also give them a little taste of what I got to.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a longer journey, as well as, like making my own music too.
Yeah.
So that's been a long road as well. I've been trying to learn and feel comfortable with producing for about 5 years now. And DJing, it's been about the same as bartending, about 8 years. So just started with the homies in the bedroom, and then had to take those skills out and, prove myself with it. So
What was your main genre when you started?
my main genre when I started was house music, like real deep bass house music, and really heavy headbanger dubstep shit.
Oh,
So
shit.
it was really hard to like market that when, 8 years ago, Albuquerque didn't really have like a scene for like mosh pits and rail riding, headbanging, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the scene is still pretty tight knit. It's getting better and bigger. There's more opportunities for artists making that kind of music nowadays. But yeah, after that, I just kind of dove into, more hip hop, more Latin, more, even got into like drum and bass and techno and stuff like that, just to like open up more opportunities, because it's not always just about like the music genre that I like to play. It's about like being there with people and vibing off energy and music.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I started with dubstep and house, and now I'm all over the place.
Who influenced you like for dubstep and house? Who were you listening to during that time?
So back in the day,
Probably like Skrillex.
Skrillex for sure.
Yeah.
Like even in that era, there's homies like Dr. P, Flux Pavilion. Then you had like people that released music with Skrillex. So you had a big influence to me is this homie Getter. I'm sure he's kind of popping off his Tara Reid nowadays. Just the shit he was making, his energy, his vibe, I was just like, God damn, so sick. But yeah, there's some other people too, in the electronic music. I was listening to vibey shit as well too, like Flume, Odessa, Cashmere Cat, some homies like that back in the day. So I like to do, it wasn't just like all headbanger stuff. It was like the shit I could dance to too,
Yeah.
So definitely would say those homies are some good influence. A lot of hip hop influence too, especially old school shit. Run DMC, Beastie Boys, that would be like skateboarding to that shit.
Fuck yeah.
Damn, dude, I need like beats like this, make beats like this, chill too.
Yeah.
So,
But how hard is it to be a DJ? Because everyone will be like, oh, that's so cool, you're a DJ and shit. But like, I know it's a hard industry because people talk shit. It's like about your music and like, oh, you turn off the vibe whenever everyone was vibing out to a specific song or something. Like, how hard is it being a DJ?
It can get tricky when it comes to I think specifically like what you're talking about is like requests, when a whole group of girls are at the club and they want to hear Sexy Red over and over and over and over again, Bad Bunny over and over and over and over again. And like even while it's playing, they'll be requesting that shit. And so that's kind of like what kind of turned my head to do more rave, more EDM stuff, because that type of DJing is more performance.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I can prepare a set. I always, like to make sure I set a good foundation on vibes, but and technically speaking, it's not very hard. I'm sure you guys have heard DJing, you press play, So it could be as simple as that, or it could be as technical as like, mashing two songs together, blending, your EQs and using effects properly, timing, you got to use momentum, like you said about killing the vibe, stuff like that. So it can be a little tricky and technical, but yeah, I try not to let that shit really influence the rest of what else is going on. Like, just because you want to hear Sexy Red again, like, I'm just not going to play it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's easy to just say no and just, all right, go have fun, girl. Like, maybe I'll get to it.
So what's the biggest stage besides campus? Have you DJ'd anywhere else, like open for somebody or anything like that?
Yeah, so some of my big events have been at Effects for sure. They bring a lot of heavy hitters. Viva, ABQ, they're one of the best promoters in town, and they just bring the big dogs, man, and they got the marketing on lock, and they know what the people like, so it's always a pleasure playing for them. Just because, I can expect it to be a packed room at Effects in the main room.
Yeah.
And just a lot of energy there. I've also done like I think it's called Backstage at Revel.
Backstage
I played
Revel,
there.
I heard that, yeah.
One of my first big opportunities, I got to play a silent disco at Bass Canyon over in Washington.
That's dope. So
it was like one of the first like cool gigs that I got, when I first started DJing, and I, submitted a mix, and it was like one of the first mixes I ever made, and they're like, hell yeah, as long as you're, gonna be here at the festival already, come play the silent disco 3:00 in the morning with all the wooks just going crazy, whoever's up at the camping site. And I was like, all right, cool, let's do it. So that one was big too. That was a good time. But I think they're just getting bigger and bigger. I'm really excited to look forward to playing at Meow Wolf pretty soon. So I think that's gonna be pretty big. And a couple like 360 experiences too. So that should be cool as well.
So when you're preparing, like, do you have like I've seen a lot of raves and DJs, they have like their light show, smokes and things like that. Do you have access to that as well?
For the most part, I don't. I really haven't dived too deep into the visual DJing side of things. I would love to, but I like to focus more on the music side.
Yeah.
Let them, because they have a job too, you know.
Yeah.
All the guys running, you know, all the different, you know, LED screens, all the lasers, CO2 cannons, you know, that's a whole job in itself.
So how many layers are there in DJing then? Like, 'cause you have the music, obviously. You have
Yeah.
like the lights and things like that. Like, what
Well,
else?
you also have to think like who's making the art and all the shit you see on the screen,
Yeah,
you know. And then someone has to operate all that shit too.
that's true.
So, you know, you have also somebody that's mixing and engineering the sound as well too. So you have somebody making sure all the levels are right. Not just the DJ does that.
Mhm.
You know, someone's, you know, operating the main soundboard and making sure shit sounds right all through the night, building, you know, different intensities or volumes based on who's performing and when.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of different aspects, you know. Even like goes all the way back to the bartenders, the person working the door, the promoters, you know, like all that matters to me as a DJ is everybody that's involved in
Mm-hmm.
making a dope event dope, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How does a DJ scale himself? Like, is it just by word of mouth? Is it like social media clout? Like, you know?
It's a little bit of both. It's about branding, I feel like, is one of the most important things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just who you know, especially word of mouth, and just kind of putting yourself out there. And, you know, like I said, there's opportunities where you can like apply for shows. You know, you can submit, you know, put your name in the hat, try to, you know, get your opportunity that way. There's like remix competitions and stuff too, or just putting your music out there, being consistent, and, you know, letting people know, you know, it's basically like an online resume through your social media, through what you create.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of the same way as like starting a clothing brand, you know, like you got to just start the marketing, create the product, you know, have a brand that attracts people, and then get it out to people, you know, and then, you know, you might have to do some stuff for free for a while, you know,
Mm-hmm.
let people get a little sample, a little taste of what you got going on and what you can provide for them. And then their homie finds out, and then their homie finds out, and then, oh, now I'm meeting all these other DJs and they like my shit. So it just becomes a big spider web of who you know, when you know, and just, you know, cracking down that door when, you know, it doesn't seem like it's going to open.
Yeah.
So,
Did you start by doing things for free?
yes.
Yeah.
I still do shit for free.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
That's good.
Yeah. I definitely am. I see myself as still as, you know, amateur, I guess you could say. Even though I've, you know, built a lot of my skills, I don't have like crazy social media. I don't have a like manager or anybody running my marketing or anything like that. So still very, you know, low level independent artist right now. So I think if the opportunity is good, you know, a lot of DJs don't like to perform for, you know, experience or, you know, get recognition, but I'll do it. I just love DJing. You know, I'll do it for free. There are some times where, you know, bills got to be paid, and, you know, certain things have to be lined up to where I do got to get paid. But
Right.
for the most part, I usually can make something happen and work it out with people. So
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to get signed by an agency like one day? Like, is that your end goal?
that would be cool. I would love to go on tour. That's kind of like my 5-year plan is, you know, maybe release some music, get some of my own music out there, you know, reach out to some bigger artists, you know, maybe Denver, Seattle, and kind of reach out to them, and then see how I can start going that way. And then eventually, you know, potentially get a touring manager, and then from there, you know, get put on some sort of label to release music. So that's definitely in the 5-10 year plan for sure.
When it comes to your music aspect of your life, is it, you know, were you like depressed when you're younger? Like, were you trying to find yourself? Like, what made you really want to get into music?
So I think my drive for getting into music really stems from, you know, being an older brother. You know, honestly, I spent a lot of time by myself. My parents focused a lot on raising kids, paying bills, stuff like that. So I had to, you know, get myself to school, get myself, you know, back and forth. You know, there's a lot going on at home, a lot. So, you know, I didn't really get a whole lot of attention. You know, they did support me, and they still do. But, you know, sometimes when you're on your own, you got to find some sort of peace, you know, some sort of meditation. And music, you know, was definitely there for me when no one else was, you know.
Yeah.
So I can definitely dive into that for sure.
You think it's like a way of you expressing yourself, depending on how you're feeling?
Yeah, man, definitely. You know, like I said, jack of all trades, right? I kind of became obsessed with finding ways to get my voice out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even when I was in high school, I would write poetry and do poetry slams. You know, I got on the cheer team. You know, silly things like posting dance videos on YouTube, learning different instruments, and you know, somehow through DJing, I'm able to really be myself and connect with people that way. And you know, I don't feel so alone.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah.
understandable.
Is a DJ hate really real? Like as far as like the other DJs go, like oh fuck that DJ, his music's
Yeah.
trash.
The DJ
You know?
music track.
All other DJs are trash. No, I'm just kidding. Honestly, it can be real. It's just drama. At the end of the day, I don't really think I would want to hate on anybody's music. I think constructive criticism is really important, and having an opinion is good. I mean, I don't think everybody's gonna be making good music. You know, not every rapper is a great rapper. Yada
Right.
yada. But I think there's definitely some drama that can get in the way of the outcome of a good event, or being a good artist. You know, you let your emotions kind of divide you from people, which I don't think is good. But it's definitely out there.
How do you feel the industry is out here, like in Albuquerque? Do you think it's saturated, or there's still too much opportunity to?
I think it's growing. I think the problem that I see right now is we need growth, especially with raves and clubs. Like, how many clubs do we have?
Just a few. That's
Few,
it.
but-
Two,
yeah.
three, maybe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it can get saturated for sure, but I think there's people out there doing their best to make it interesting, make it fresh, bring new shit to the table. There are people that see it as a business, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So it does get repetitive, and you end up getting that feeling that nothing's really happening in Albuquerque, but deep down something's happening. There's shit going on, especially if you have to go and look underground at local events, local labels. There's still people doing stuff all the time at small bars or small venues. So there's always something there. I think you just kind of have to find it sometimes, and I think in Albuquerque it could be kind of hard.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, coming from a big city like São Paulo, Brazil, and they're one of like my favorite places to go. They play house music, and haven't found anywhere here that will, like, I can go and just listen to house music.
Play
and,
some good house music.
yeah,
all
good
night.
house music. It's just like I like the atmosphere when there's house music being played around. Obviously, I like the rap and everything like that, but
Yeah.
that's one of the things out here. Like I'd love to see a club that plays solely house music, or a bar that plays house music.
See,
That'd
and
be-
that hearing your opinion on that makes me happy, because we could get there.
Yeah.
We just got to get the right people together and create that opportunity to be like, yo, if you love house music, come check this shit out. So hell
Yeah, it's not.
Is your parents supportive of like your goals and ambition? Because I know there's a lot of parents that aren't really with their, how kids are, like, oh, that's stupid or that's dumb, like.
Yeah, my parents have always been supportive. I've kind of had to figure shit out on my own. A lot of people, either can come from money, or, their parents will get them the foot in the door, type of thing. But my dad's a really well-known painter. So he does art, visual art and stuff. So his world and my world didn't really link up together, But he's always been supportive. He's an artist too, so he totally gets, the passion, the late nights, the perfectionism, all that stuff. I get all that shit from him.
Yeah.
So I definitely, from the sidelines, they're cheering me on. They do their best. But yeah, I wouldn't be here without my dad, and the way he is with his art. I look up to him a lot. So I do think they're supportive for sure.
That's good, man. Your dad does art too?
Painting.
Yeah, he does paintings. So he does he calls it like Chicano pop art. So he paints like chihuahuas with bandanas and
that's
low
sick.
riders and the Virgin Mary all tatted up, and like, so he does really cool stuff. He has the same name as me, actually. He goes by El Moises, which is kind of shitty because he's the Moises. Where does that leave me, man? So, but no, he's the OG, man. He's been through his shit too, and he expresses himself through his art. And he's got a crazy, wild, view on the world, and he puts it in his art. So I see that, and I can reflect on that as well too. So.
Yeah, I see.
That's cool, man. But I really appreciate you coming on here, like, telling, like, kind of a quick story about you and your
Hell
life,
yeah.
bro. And I hope people and other, like, producers or DJs get inspired by your story and really, try to persevere and push through what they're ever going through and the adversities in life and whatsoever. Yeah, before we end today's podcast, again, I want to give a huge shout out to our two main sponsors. We got Hookah Kings, the top rated hookah lounge in New Mexico. We pride ourselves on great customer service. A Merino Media, quality content for your business and image. And I'll see you guys next time on the Smart Talk.
Yes, sir.